Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ariana Neal, and I am the Outreach and Engagement Intern for the AARP Kentucky State Office. And I will be your moderator for the program today. With us today is your co host and Louisville Community Team volunteer, Linda Cooley. Welcome and thank you for joining us. AARP Kentucky's First Fridays are interactive series designed to dive into critical health topics. These 30-minute virtual events aim to share valuable resources from the professionals who work in the field and provide opportunities for attendees to ask questions in real time so you can leave with answers in hand. We hope that you will ask questions today.
Yes, for today event, we are joined by Erin Gillespie of the Greater Kentucky and Southern Indiana chapter of Alzheimer's Association. We will discuss the differences between Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and how the Alzheimer's Association can help patients and families. At AARP Kentucky, we are dedicated to providing you with the information and support you need to lead a healthy and fulfilling life. We're excited to welcome our special guest, Erin Gillespie, Director of Programs of the Alzheimer Association, to get us started today. Erin, would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Linda. So I'm very excited to be here today to talk a little bit about what dementia is versus Alzheimer's. So like Linda had said, my name is Erin Gillespie, and I'm the Director of Programs for the Alzheimer's Association, Greater Kentucky and Southern Indiana. And what does programs mean? It means that I am the Director of the Care and Support pillar of our organization. We cover 125 counties within the state of Kentucky and Southern Indiana to not only provide awareness about what this disease is, but also resources, education, support to the general public, to caregivers, those living with the disease, and also those working with people with the disease. So again, I'm very glad to hear some of your questions that you have today. And so we'll be talking a lot about dementia, Alzheimer's, and probably a lot of things trending and things that you'll be asking questions about.
Thank you, ladies. We will now move into the Q&A portion of today's program. We know our members are concerned about dementia and many have questions about the warning signs. Our first question is Alzheimer's versus dementia. Is there a difference?
So we get this a lot, and there's a lot of misunderstanding of what dementia is. So dementia is really just an umbrella term for the loss of memory and other thinking abilities so severe that it's enough to interfere with with your daily life. So under that umbrella is where you'll see Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia. So dementia isn't a single disease. It's an overall term, kind of like heart disease, if you will, that covers a wide range of specific medical conditions, including Alzheimer's disease. So to be clear, Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, and dementia is a cause, or Alzheimer's is the cause of dementia. So really, it's under that umbrella term. We hear Alzheimer's disease more because it is 60 to 80% of all cases. And a lot of people come to us and say, as the Alzheimer's Association, if I have vascular dementia, or if I have Lewy body, or my loved one has frontal temporal, do you still provide resources for us? Yes, absolutely. We are actually called, our legal name is Alzheimer's Association and Related Dementias, but that's a little long. So we cut it down. And again, because Alzheimer's is more prevalent to 60 to 80%, that is where we get our name. But we do provide resources and support to everyone with cognitive decline.
Thank you, Erin. Our second question is dementia a normal part of aging?
So this is a good question. This is 2025. This space is changing very, very quickly. I was a caregiver for my grandmother many years ago, and we didn't know what we know now. But even before that, my great grandmother, people thought of it as old-timers disease, or they're just aging, and that's part of aging. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. It is caused by damage to the brain cells that affect your ability to communicate, which can affect thinking and behavior and feelings. So this is like Alzheimer's is a disease. This isn't just normal part of aging. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about the warning signs.
Okay. So our third question is, what are early signs of Alzheimer's and dementia?
I work a lot in the community, as you can imagine. And so we do a lot of tabling events, and someone will come up to me and say, I lose my keys a lot. Is that something I should be worried about? Is that something I should talk to my doctor about? Mm-hmm. No. And you'll see the 10 warning signs here in a minute whenever he shows the next slide. And just note, before I get into some of these signs, that you don't have to have all 10 of these to go see your doctor. So one of those is challenges in planning or solving problems. The person may have trouble following a familiar recipe or keeping track of monthly bills. Say the loved one is typically, monthly, their bills are paid, and now you're going over to their house and their cable isn't working, or maybe their electric's been turned off. And so those are things that you need to start looking at. Decrease and poor judgment. For example, they may use poor judgment when dealing with money, we had a caregiver call us not too long ago, and their loved one had called a trip advisor and scheduled a $50,000 trip. That she just didn't understand why that he would have done something like that, because that's not something that they had planned for or really could even afford. So when they're making some of those drastic poor decisions, definitely take note of that. Withdrawal from work or social activities. A person with Alzheimer's or related dementias may experience changes in the ability to hold or follow conversations. And you can only imagine if you go to church and people are trying to talk to you and you're having conversations and you're not understanding it. It's embarrassing, but also it leads to a lot of anxiety. So oftentimes that they will withdraw from those situations. Misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace them. So that's kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about your keys. If you lose your keys, I've been losing my keys since I was 16, right? That's just part of who I am, but I'm able to retrace my steps to be able to find those keys. And that's part of that. Whenever someone is losing things and can't retrace their steps, or maybe putting things in an odd place, like they're putting their keys maybe in the freezer or, where you can't find them. Those are the things you need to look for and really take note of so you can talk to your doctor.
All right, that leads us to our next question, which is what resources and support are available for caregivers in those diagnosed?
Well, and when we're talking about those warning signs, I'm going to back up just a little bit to really talk about why understanding those warning signs are so important. Like I said, this space is changing very, very quickly. We're not just being told to go home and deal with it by yourself. And there's a hope. And so if you are noticing those warning signs or, of Alzheimer's or related dementias in yourself or someone schedule an appointment with a doctor. Have that important conversation. I know sometimes those conversations can be hard, but what we initially want to do is make sure that it's not dementia. A lot of times doctors are wanting to rule this out because it could be a thyroid issue, a vitamin deficiency. There's a lot of things that can mimic dementia and, memory loss. So making sure that you go to your doctor to talk about them things to rule out dementia or, Alzheimer's and related dementias. But, you got to think whenever you hear about Alzheimer's and dementia, you think about the forgetting memories and things like that. But in the early stage, receiving an early diagnosis may help lessen some of those anxieties about why someone's experiencing these symptoms. Maybe your loved one is having a lot of these symptoms and you're not understanding why, and it's confusing to you. It's causing, arguments. So that can reduce some of those symptoms. With early detection, families also have the opportunity to maximize time together and access some of the resources in their community and support. Also, explore treatment options. Just in 2021, we released the first treatment for Alzheimer's disease. There's been a lot of symptomatic drugs in the past that help with the symptoms of Alzheimer's related dementias. Now there is a treatment for Alzheimer's. I will be clear, it's for Alzheimer's only. That this treatment is only for mild cognitive impairment or early stage. So, and it does work with the hallmarks of that disease. Again, we're in the era of treatment. So getting that early diagnosis gives you an option. Of course, treatment is a personal option, a family option, but this does give you the time to make that decision. And then finally, being able to involve that person that is diagnosed in the decision making. It's very important that that person gets to have a say in what happens to them, whether it's financial planning, whether it's, home care or transitioning into a community for care. I know, I don't know about you all online, but I know I want to be able to have a say in what happens to me. And so making sure you have that early diagnosis allows you to do that.
Yes. Thank you, Erin. Linda, do we have any questions from the Facebook audience?
I do want to make a comment on that too. It's so close to me, And it says, the first question is first, I'm going to ask you this. It says, if I have concerns about memory loss, who should I contact first?
So you should contact your primary care doctor. There's a lot of things, and I've heard from, memory specialists that if you don't like your doctor, you can fire them. And I'll be honest, you have to have those conversations with your primary care. And if they're not equipped to do the evaluations or to really take time to hear you out and understand your concerns, then I would look somewhere else. But the first stop is your primary care.
Okay, thank you. Also, the next question, is there treatments for early dementia?
So yeah, that's what we were just talking about a few minutes ago. And I will be clear. I'll back up a little bit about who to contact first if you're having some issues. You can also contact Alzheimer's Association or get online to really go through those 10 warning signs, but to reach out to your provider. So the new treatments for Alzheimer's, I will be very frank with you. It's not a cure. We're not there yet. I do see us being there at some point. And just because of so many things that are in the pipeline, so many things, new hope. So there are two treatments, and that is lecanemab and donanemab. And those are the treatments, and they're going on right here in Kentucky. There's several hospital systems that are doing Leqembi right now, which is that, and it is an infusion type of medicine. And what it does is it targets the amyloid plaque, which is the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. And like I said, it's not a cure, but it does, studies show, science is behind this medicine, that it does extend your independent phase of Alzheimer's. Again, you have to be in mild cognitive impairment due to Alzheimer's, or you have to have early stage Alzheimer's.
Okay, and the next question is from Joanne Lee. She says, could brain fog be a sign of dementia in Alzheimer's?
I guess it would be depending on what brain fog is. Is it, that you're forgetting things that all the time? I've heard of brain fog, like chemo brain fog, things like that. And so I guess something to look at is it interfering with your everyday life? Is it continuous? Does it not go away? Dementia is Alzheimer's is a disease that's not going to get better. Alzheimer's actually gets worse through time. So, are there days, you're going to have good days and bad, but also are those symptoms staying around and is interfering with your everyday life? And if you're worried about brain fog and you think that maybe that is a sign of dementia, I definitely wouldn't push it off. Go to your primary care, talk to your family. I'd rather be safe than sorry when it comes to that. And it could be something else, like I was talking about vitamin deficiencies, thyroid issues.
Okay. All right. Okay, now the next question is from Todd Robbins. It says, am I not clear on difference? Please repeat. He's not clear on it.
So there's not. So the difference is, and some people come to us and say, I have Alzheimer's, I don't have dementia. So the difference is it's not the same thing, right? So dementia is just that umbrella term. Alzheimer's is the disease that causes the dementia. So dementia is just the loss of memory, thinking, language, problem-solving skills, and other abilities that are so severe enough that it affects daily life. And so under that umbrella is where the disease is, like Alzheimer's disease. So like I said, it's kind of like heart disease. There's a wide range of specific medical conditions, including Alzheimer's, that cause the dementia.
Right. Okay. I know at 62, like I said, it was personal to me. My sister, she developed signs of it at 62, and at 65, she was gone. So that's early onset, and it seems like it progresses faster when they get it at an early age. It's like two deaths. Death of memory,
right?
The death of the physical.
And that I'm glad that you brought that up, because a lot of people think, and yes, aging is the number one risk factor of getting Alzheimer's related dementias. But this isn't just an old person disease. And I talk about that all the time, because I know people in their 40s that have younger onset Alzheimer's. I know people in their 60s. I know people in their 50s. So this isn't something, that only people 65 and older get. This is a disease that anyone, unfortunately, can get, but the most people are 65 and older. And Linda, I don't know. I don't want to talk about the science behind that younger onset, because I will say people with dementia, some will live 4 to 5, 8 years. Some can live 20. So I think it also, I always say to our families, one person with dementia, one person with dementia, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I have seen, some of the people with the younger onset.
Okay. The next question is from Marianne Brown. She says, how do you get the person to admit things are changing?
That's hard. I will be completely transparent. That's one of the hardest parts of whenever you're starting to see your loved one decline or see some of those symptoms. And so some of the suggestions that we have is making a journal, making a journal of the things that you've been seeing and date them. So that way, and also have a serious conversation with them in a private setting, not just a one-off saying, I think something's wrong with you, or, really try to have a discussion about it and, ask questions like, if I saw a difference in your memory, would you want to know? Or if I see some changes going on, would you want to know? Or, you can also say, some things have been worrying me. Can we sit down and talk? And so usually it's best one-on-one, or if you have a brother or sister that's close to them, you don't want them to feel like they're being ganged up on. And having that journal of things that you've been able to see just to back up some of your concerns, because I guarantee you one of their first things that they're going to say is like, I didn't do that. Or I don't know what you're talking about. So being able to back that up with some statements and some dates and really just talk about being worried and not come off that you're attacking them can be very helpful. And we also, and we'll go over some of the resources here in a minute. If you go to alz.org there's like a whole thing that says, what do I do if I see signs? And under that, there's a checklist for your doctor's visits, but also how do I have those hard conversations? There's also, it's called Dementia Conversations on our on-demand free education programs. And it really kind of outlines some different strategies to have when you're going to visit the doctor. Driving is a big one. Like, when do I take those keys away? And what is that going to look like? Because a lot of times that's their very last stage of independence. And that can be a really, really hard conversation and transaction. So there's a lot of things within that program that, unfortunately, we have those difficult conversations, and understanding some of the strategies to move past some of those challenges can be very beneficial.
Okay. Now we have another question from Ms. Rollins. It says, what supports are available for family caregivers providing support for a loved one with dementia?
We do see that our caregivers are, the front line. We often see that they have comorbidities, and sometimes they're not taking care of themselves because they're being caregivers. So we really wrap our arms around caregivers as an association, because we know it's kind of like when you're getting on the airplane, you put on your mask before the person beside you. We do not see enough of that as caregivers. So for caregivers, we have over 28 caregiver support groups throughout the state of Kentucky and Southern Indiana. We also have virtual support groups. One good thing about some of our support groups is that they're very specific. So right now we have one for spouses. And we know that a spouse's journey as a caregiver is going to look a little different than a daughter or a son's journey as a caregiver. So we really make sure that a lot of our caregiver programs have a variety, because we know it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We also have on-demand education programs like I was just talking about. And we know that caregiving is not 24/7. So everything that we do, our education programs, our support groups, it is virtual and in person, just because we know that, we have to be flexible, just like a schedule for a caregiver. I know when my grandmother had the disease, if she was having a bad day, we weren't going anywhere, right? So the best laid plans. But one thing I really want to talk about is our 24/7 helpline. I know you're thinking, oh, it's a 1-800 number. Who am I going to talk to? Am I going to have to push a bunch of buttons? Is that only for emergencies? So our 24/7 helpline, it is a helpline that has over 200 languages, but is staffed by master level clinicians. So if you need to know, what do I say to my loved one? Because they are not listening to me when I say that I'm concerned about their memory loss, you can call this number. If you need to know information about the new treatments out and who is eligible, you can call this number. If you're interested in one of our education programs, you can register through this number. But also, when caregivers, it's very isolating. This can be a very isolating disease, not only for the person living with the disease, but for the caregiver. If you just need someone to talk to at 2:00 in the morning on Thanksgiving, you can call this number. So we have one of our volunteers, a data entry volunteer. She volunteers for the association, and her statement was, I knew that helpline was going to be there for me 24/7, and I don't know what I would have done without them. So again, this is our association. It's not contracted out. And it's one of the best resources you can have on hand, because it definitely has any subject, and the staff on there are just incredible.
All right. Well, thank you. On behalf of AARP Kentucky, we would like to thank Erin from the Alzheimer's Association for joining us today and sharing valuable insight on dementia and the importance of early detection and also the warning signs. Erin, would you like to mention anything else?
Yeah, so just know, I love that Ms. Rollins had talked about the caregiver resources, but we also have resources for those that are newly diagnosed. This is a very difficult process. There's grief that goes along with it. And what's new, you have all these questions. So know that we have resources for your loved ones that have been diagnosed, caregivers. And know that you're not alone. Reach out for support. I know that can be hard to ask for help, but that's what we do. That's why we're here. This is what we love to do. We want to help you. So there's no question, if we don't know it right on hand, we will find it. But that can be your biggest ally, is the support and the education of the disease.
And I'd like to personally thank you, because if it wasn't for the Alzheimer's Association, I don't know how I would have made it through with my sister. So thank you so much. And to those joining us today online, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you've learned something new, and we look forward to seeing you on future First Fridays. The events are going to be really great. So thank you so much, and enjoy your day. Be blessed.
Yes. Thank you all. Stay safe out there.
All right. Bye-bye.